Right. Today I'm going to be speaking about what's in this course, why I created it. Again, there's nothing fancy. Like I'm currently piss wet from the rain. I'm in Sao Paulo right now in Brazil. Um, Raining quite heavily this evening. Been here for about a month. Only speaking Portuguese. And yeah, this video is nothing fancy. No fancy editing. There's no marketing for this course, no advertising. It's literally just this is just a raw video of me in front of this shit light in an Airbnb at what time is it? At 7 p.m. Talking about my passion for learning a second language and why I think you should too. Um, so as I said, sat down, made a few notes as to what I think and yeah, why I created what I created. So why I think you should learn a second language. God, honestly, there's so many reasons, but the main ones for me, the benefits that I saw. First one, the biggest one for me, is it set me apart. I'm British, and I grew up in a very small village. My whole family is British. Like as far back as the bloodline that I know goes, is all British. Nobody has ever learned a second language before. It's all just British. Everyone I grew up with was British. I wasn't exposed to any other languages, other other cultures, nothing like that. Like it was all just English British culture. So there was basically zero incentive from my environment to push me to learn a different language. Obviously, when you're an English speaker, you naturally have no incentive to learn another language. I think we're quite arrogant in the sense that we expect the whole world to learn English, but there's not really an expectation for us to learn any other languages. So yeah, that's my background, and as I said, I've seen this has set me apart massively. I've not seen anything that's given me more opportunities than learning a second language. Um, like in my hometown, it's kind of like what I'm known for now is like the guy that goes and visits Brazil and has Brazilian girlfriends. Um, yeah, it's become like a personality thing for me. Not that I want it to be. It's just that it's so rare that somebody has seen a second language through where I live that it's kind of become what I'm known for. Um, but in terms of setting me apart, it set me apart from a on a work perspective, every single way, in a personal perspective, in a dating perspective, especially every single way. Um, from a dating perspective, um, I, I mean, I'm fairly standard. Like, I work really hard and I push myself, but at the end of the day, there are thousands of other guys that do the exact same thing. You know, try and be their best version of themselves, and even though it's not common, it's not hard to find. So, even with this, it's still hard to set yourself apart and be different from other people. Um, so from a dating perspective, for example, these women are looking at on dating apps, for example, and they're just seeing loads of guys who look the same, same caption, same look, same everything. It is hard to be quite different. It's easy and hard. Um, but one thing that I saw set me apart was learning a different language, especially as an English speaker. Like there's zero expectation to, as I said. Everyone who's from a different country expects that you don't speak another language. And for example, if I found another Brazilian on a dating app, they would instantly be like, "Why the hell do you speak Portuguese? Like, you have Portuguese family. You've already had like a. Have you been married to a Brazilian before? Like, you lived in Brazil? Like, why?" Like, everyone is just massively shocked when you can say that you can speak a different language. Um, so from a dating perspective, it was like it helped me so much. Before I learned second language, like I didn't get any matches or nothing like that, no dates. Learned second language, started getting dates, started getting matches. Because when you have a second language, you can start to flirt with people or whatever in that language. Sets you apart, whatever. You can obviously go on dates. If you really want to, you can even surprise people. I've done this a few times, and it's so fucking funny. Like they think you're like the most British person ever, and then they start trying to teach you something about, I don't know, their country. Obviously, you already know it, but you act surprised, whatever, and then you just start speaking in their language, whatever, stuff like that. Surprises. I love seeing people shocked. Um, you can see like the joy in their face when they're like, "Oh my god," because no one expects it. From a work perspective, obviously, if you're going up against guys for getting a job who, they all have the same qualifications as you, probably have like similar experience to you. But if you can speak another language, that shows that you've put in the time and effort to learn a second language. And it's also something that set you apart, especially if you've got like international clients, if it's a global business, etc. Um, One thing that I've also seen is, like, for example, I work sales. So as I'm speaking to people, you look for things to help build relationships that people will be interested in. Obviously, you have to be interested, but at the same time, you also have to be interesting. And one thing that I've always seen is everybody's interested in learning another language, especially when there's somebody who they can relate to see how they've done it. But obviously, no one ever really sees it through. But everyone's interested in it. So when I'm speaking to people, you can see them, like, for example, somebody will be in a different conversation, but they'll hear me speaking to one of my customers about, learn a second language, or traveling solo, whatever, and they'll instantly start listening because it's interesting. Like, everybody likes the idea of being able to speak more than one language. So it's definitely helped me build relationships, 100%, being able to speak about this sort of stuff, what I learned, what helped me. And it's just because I'm naturally passionate about it. It's given me something to be passionate about, and people always sense the passion, and they like seeing somebody that's passionate. I like seeing somebody that's passionate about. I like seeing somebody that's passionate about something. Um, so yeah, it's helped me massively. So set me apart. I feel like it's helped me on like an intellectual level, certainly. Like, something that I'm always very keen on is always learning something, and a language is something that is a great example of that. Every single day you have to do something, you have to put it into your routine. You're constantly learning, you have to memorize. Like, it's a lot. Learning a new language is a lot, and on an intellectual perspective, it massively helps. Like, if you imagine you've learned thousands of words in one language, you have to do the exact same thing again in a second language. Like, that's no easy feat. That's very, very difficult to do, and something that you naturally become very proud of, and everyone who's a supporter of you also becomes very proud of that. You not only took the initiative that most people don't do, but you also saw it through. Like, I know I've got a lot of friends that when I was younger, they'd hop on Duolingo, and you'd see them get to like a 30-40 day streak, whatever, and then they just bin it off. And now they're not going to remember anything from it, and also in 30-40 days you're barely even speaking the basics. So it's very rare that people actually see it through, which is why people get so impressed when you have seen it through. God, I had so many reasons for learning a second language, and here they are. Dating, already said. Travel becomes a lot more safer. Solo travel especially becomes a lot easier. You can do whatever you want, and you can easily speak to people. You're not struggling. You can ask questions, you can be curious. Let's open up the mind, more opportunities, always learning. You also learn about new cultures, so obviously the countries that speak the language you're learning, you're naturally going to start learning about their cultures. And that's something I'd recommend, is choose a language that you're interested in, the culture of the countries that speak it. Certainly that helps. You become more interested naturally. And one thing that I've liked quite a lot is helping people. So I'll talk about this in the course, but when I was learning, I used to I would essentially, instead of walking back from work, instead of walking straight to the train station, I would essentially take the long way, which was like more touristy. I went past like Big Ben, etc. And I would see a lot more tourists, and obviously I had to force myself to take the longer route, even though I didn't want to. And every single time I heard a Brazilian speaking, like a tourist, which was quite easy to find, there was a lot of them around Big Ben, I would like force myself in the moment to just stop and say hello and try and speak to them. Obviously, my Portuguese wasn't very good, so I would start it with, hey, I heard you were speaking Portuguese. I'm currently learning. Um, what are you doing in the country? Are you a tourist? How are you enjoying it? Do you live here? Why did you move? Do you want any recommendations to see anything for eating? What sort of stuff do you like? Blah blah blah. Do you have any recommendations for Brazil? Where are you from in Brazil? You get the point. Like, one, learning a language gave me an excuse to speak to people, but two, it made me more of a people person. Like, I had to learn to speak to people to be able to practice the language, which obviously helps because I work sales. It helps me massively. So the other part of this is when you're speaking to people, or when you can start to hear that people speaking the language, you can also help them. So it's happened so many times, especially in train stations. I don't know why. It's always train stations. I'll hear Brazilians who are like trying to get a ticket. They don't know how. Don't know which platform to take. They don't know where to go, which train, blah blah blah, which station to get off. I hear it so many times, like all the time, as I say, especially in train stations. And being able to help people is very, very gratifying, especially in a different language. And they're always very, very grateful of your help. And of course, very impressed that you can speak the language, especially when you look very, very foreign. Like, I don't look Brazilian, I'm obviously British. So they're all very, very grateful. And it also helps me build relationships a lot easier. Like, if I'm just going up to somebody in the street and I'm going to speak English to them in England, they're going to assume that I want something, and they're probably going to be quite hesitant to speak to me. It's impossible to cold approach people, whatever the reason is. When you're speaking a different language, it automatically, and you're being curious, it automatically just takes down the wall that they have in front of them. Like, people are a lot more receptive. So it's helped me build relationships with these people. Like, I know I've helped certain people in the past, a stranger in the street, whatever, a Brazilian, and I've built a relationship with them, and they've become my friend because of it. I say, for example, one that I know is somebody who was new to London, and they were just basically fucking clueless as to where they were, using a map or whatever with their friend. I helped them, and now they're my friend. But, being able to actually start that relationship is very, very difficult, especially if you're in a big city like London. People are very, very hesitant to speak to you because usually it's because you want something. So many benefits. I think I've waffled for how many minutes? 12 minutes. Oh my god. So many benefits as to why you should be learning a language. And obviously this is the reason why I made this course, because I'm very, very passionate about learning a second language, and I know I can teach other people how to learn a second language. Obviously, I'm not teaching you how to learn the language. So, for example, if you're interested in Spanish, I'm not teaching you Spanish. This is, everything I've learned about learning a language. So, how to actually learn a language. So, in the course, I'm going to be talking about things like mindset change. So, it is a different way of learning. It's something different that you have to learn. It's not like learning maths in school. It is something different. You've probably heard that children find it a lot easier to learn a language. There's a reason for that. There are certainly ways to learn a language. Obviously, I'll talk about the methods and techniques. As I said, things like spaced repetition, immersion, all that sort of stuff is very, very important. Now, as I said, learn a language. If you're putting in the time, you're going to learn the language regardless. It's as simple as that. It's the same with anything. If you put in enough time, you're going to get good at it, you're going to learn it, etc. But there's so much stuff that I've seen that, was a waste of my time, that I spent so much time doing because I thought it was going to be beneficial, but really I just got nothing from it. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of stuff that, was very, very valuable use of my time that I was seeing, value from very, very quickly. So all those things, I've put in how to actually set goals and, create a learning plan. Something I believe in that is very, very important is having a routine And especially when you're learning something, you have to have the commitment to do it, frequently. And the best way to do that, and to find the motivation to actually sit down and actually start studying, is to put it into your routine so that it's like a non-negotiable. You have to do it. So I talk about setting SMART goals, how to actually do that, how to actually create a learning routine, like a realistic one. That's obviously catered for learning a language. Resources and immersion. So the resources that I used, that I personally got value from, for example, Duolingo. Like, you've probably heard people slagging it off. You've probably heard some people say it's great. I basically say where I see the benefit of Duolingo. I think it does have a space, but please don't rely on it. You're not going to learn a language with it. But I think it does have a space. So I talk about things like that, and obviously how to see it through. I think this is the hardest one. People naturally like starting new things. I think we're all guilty of that, starting something, but very, very rarely people see it through and they finish it. It takes a lot of commitment to see it through, and I feel like it's kind of like a personality trait to see it through, to see something through. You have to be somebody who believes they can see it through, and it's the same with the language. You have to believe that you're going to see it through, that you're going to get to your goal. And that's something I speak about, is setting realistic goals. Like, the goal shouldn't be perfection. The goal shouldn't be sounding like a native. Not at all. That should not be the goal. The goal should be a certain level of comprehension and proficiency. So I talk about all that good stuff. So yeah, that's all the notes I had. As I say, this course is fairly new. Well, whenever I publish this video will be how new it is. But I'll be constantly updating it, as I've currently learned 2 languages, but I'm on to the third now, which is Spanish, because Portuguese and Spanish, they're quite similar. But once you learn one, it's easier to learn the other. So yeah, I'm gonna go for that. So obviously, any updates that I see from Spanish that I didn't see with Portuguese, I'll obviously add to this course. But yeah, that's it. With this course, it's not like a mass sell. I'm more interested in genuinely helping people. So I'm not untouchable, is what I'm saying. Like, if you are interested in learning a language, like, please do ask me what I thought and what I found beneficial. I'm always open to helping people. Like, everyone that's close to me, I try and encourage them to learn a second language because of how much I've seen from it. Like, everybody that I care about and I want to see succeed, I always try to encourage them to learn a second language, and they are doing. So yeah, obviously I'm completely receptive to helping more people, and I'm very passionate about learning languages now, just because of how much I've seen from it.